Hey, welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. And y'all love watching this on video. You know, we rolled out the video portion in June. Well, not June. It was in January, actually, because I'm addicted to watching Dan Bongino's podcast. That's the only decent place to get some news. And I saw how Dan's stuff went up after he went to video. And so we went to video over here too. And today we're using my spooky old courthouse background because it's cloudy outside the day I'm recording this. And if you're curious, that was taken by Michael Anderson. He's an amazing photographer in the Concord market. And that's legit our old courthouse, which is now an art's home. So if you're curious about why I have a virtual background, first of all, it's Zoom, people. Y'all know virtual backgrounds, but we don't have to do virtual and everything, right? We can still have guests here on the podcast.
Welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate, a weekly podcast where I walk you through some of the wildest, most unbelievable stories you'll hear from the world of real estate. If you like real estate and you love crazy, this is the podcast for you.
And I'm bringing you somebody who you haven't heard from on my podcast before. We have somebody from the title world. Now, for my consumer listeners, please don't tune out, because just because he works in title doesn't mean he's boring. It is that thing y'all ask us about when you buy a house. You're like, why do I need title insurance? And we have to explain that it's because if you don't have it, it's insanely expensive, but hopefully you bought it and you never needed it. But with that being said, hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
All right, so tell our people who you are, where you're located, any little tidbits they should know.
So my name is Brent Saunders. I am the Business Development Manager for PM Title in Columbus, Ohio. And PM Title is the fastest growing title company in Ohio since 2015. And we focus on helping agents grow their business. So we try to create as much value as we possibly can for agents. So we have a videography team. We have a social media manager and designer on staff. I'm a data nerd and love helping agents utilizing data to get the best return on their investment. We actually started a podcast. So we have a podcast where we interview top agents like yourself and share that with our agents, because the more they can learn from top producing agents, the more they can improve their business. And it's a symbiotic relationship. If our agents get bigger, we get bigger. So we want to create as much value as we possibly can.
And you're in Columbus, Ohio, correct?
Correct.
So if somebody's looking to sell their house, most agents are going to walk in and say, hey, I'm going to do the photos and the marketing and all the stuff. Does it matter if it comes from the agent or if it comes from the agent's relationship? Should it be disclosed to the consumer?
Should what be disclosed?
Oh no, you're providing all this marketing help to agents and you're giving them input to help them grow their businesses and make them better. Should an agent disclose to a consumer if they are being helped by their vendor?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because an agent's job is to create as much value for that homeowner as possible. And if that's by leveraging their resources like a vendor, then I think that they're doing the right thing and upholding that agreement with the seller of, hey, I'm going to get you as much money and as much exposure as possible. Even if they're not an expert in the area, they go and find that expert and get that property marketed properly. It's a good thing and it's a win.
So I love how that made you totally uncomfortable for me to ask you that question. But the reality is this, though. So like 70% of my listeners on my podcast are consumers. They're not realtors. And so I do believe, as a realtor who tells pretty much everybody all things, if one of my trusted vendors on my list is helping with their property in some way, shape, or form, I think they should know about it, because as a consumer, they probably want to reward the agent who is leveraging relationships and might want to reward the title company who provided information. Not North Carolina, friends, don't get your hopes up. We ain't a title state, but in other places. So the consumer, though, should know. Don't you agree that agents shouldn't be running around acting like they do everything themselves? Shouldn't they be bragging about the fact that they have really great partners?
Again, for me, I'm okay with them taking all the credit because, title insurance is boring. We're not, but title insurance is boring. And, we do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that most people don't understand. And again, if there's an agent that is finding ways to better market a property, I think that, hey, you found us and you leveraged us, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people, I offer, hey, let me help you. And they don't take us up on that. And that's okay. I mean, everybody is entitled to do anything the way they want, but some people don't utilize any of our resources and everything, and that's okay. So however they see best fit to market a property and everything, I'm good with them taking all the credit themselves. I want to just help in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, so you're totally not going to take the bait, but friends, if you're listening to this, I'm right here and he's wrong. Okay, so let's talk about title insurance really briefly, because agents don't understand it, even though it's on closing statements. Consumers don't understand it and they have to buy it. So just give me a normal person's explanation. Pretend you work for CNN and you had to put together a kids town hall on title insurance, because I'm a little bit angry about the CNN kids town hall they're doing to promote their agenda. It's ridiculous. But let's talk about standard title insurance versus enhanced title insurance. Give us the Elmo version of what the two are, and please tell all the listeners to this podcast that they have the ability to order enhanced title, because I find most don't.
So yeah, so there are essentially three basic forms of title insurance. And so there's going to be a lender's policy, a homeowner's policy, and an owner's policy. And the 10,000-foot overview of what is title insurance is just like every other insurance product. You pay a premium for protection if there's a problem. So health insurance, car insurance, you pay a continued premium in case anything happens bad in the future. So in case you get in a car accident, in case you break your leg, you're paying for a future problem. Title insurance is a little bit weird because it actually goes in reverse and it goes in the past. So title insurance protects you for any problems that happened already. So it's protecting you from the past. So that would be somebody saying, hey, I own an interest in that property. They should not have, quote unquote, sold it to you and deeded that property to you. So if somebody else has an ownership of the property, or if there are liens attached to the property. So somebody put a new roof on but didn't actually pay their contractor and they get a lien attached to the property, it then ends up going to the new owner. So title insurance just protects you from any problems that happened in the past. Pretty much anytime you have a lender involved, they're going to require lender's policy. And I think that's something that we really think is important to tell people about, because some areas aren't required to actually take owners' policies at all. So, and they think, well, why am I paying this extra money? I don't need to do it. Well, look at the way the banks are always going to require that lender's policy. They want to protect their assets and their investment and require it. So lender's policy, if there's a lender involved, is always required. And then, so there's owner's policy and homeowners. So the kind of basic difference is that protects the homeowner if there is a claim. So again, somebody owns a piece of the property that wasn't disclosed, poor filing or a faulty deed or whatever it may be, a lien attached to the property that wasn't found. Those will protect the homeowner. Now, in the Columbus market, our Columbus Board of Realtors contract actually requires the enhanced policy. So it's really nice in Columbus. Yeah, it's endorsed by the Columbus Bar Association. So our contract requires for our contract to actually have the enhanced policy. Biggest difference is it's a little bit more expensive. It's 15% more expensive. One of the biggest things that it does, though, is it has enhanced where it will actually appreciate with the property. And I know it sounds weird to say that it appreciates, but what I mean is, say you purchase a property for $100,000 and then there is a claim 10 years from now and the property is now worth $200,000. With the enhanced policy, it will cover up to that $200,000 home value, whereas the regular owner's policy will only secure you for that original purchase price and does not actually scale.
That's huge.
Yes.
Okay. I'm writing that down because I love that you said this protects against the past. That's a fantastic way to put it. And that's a great way to explain enhanced policy. So if a regular consumer is listening to this particular episode and they're thinking, oh shit, I don't have an enhanced policy, can they go back and get one?
That's an excellent question. And I'm going to use the most famous phrase in our industry, which is, I'm not an attorney. But I actually don't know. So I will actually ask our attorney, because we have an attorney co-owner. So I will ask our attorney, Mark Miller, and get that information, because I don't actually know.
So will you let me know? Because I'm kind of intrigued by that.
Absolutely.
And I'm always fascinated by things like this that are the nuances of real estate, right? And so they're the things you would never learn about when you become a realtor. And frankly, you could be a realtor for 50 years and not know any of this because you didn't have that one wild scenario to crop up where you were forced to immediately become an expert on it. And so with that being said, of course, the show is Crazy Shit in Real Estate, and I just made you do an educational bit, but title world if there's going to be a story in title world, it's completely batshit wild, off the charts. I cannot believe this is happening crazy. So I got to have you tell us a story from the title side of one of those wild claims that would prove to everybody that if this could happen to one dude, it could happen to you.
Well, so I actually have two, and I was not going to actually go the title world really. I was going to go more real estate and realtor facing. So I'm going to tell you that one first, and then I'll tell you more of a title one. So about 3 years ago, we hired our first videographer and brought her on staff, and she'd been with us for just a couple of weeks, and an agent said, "Hey, I've got this property, I've got this church, and I need some pictures, and can you guys come out and do it?" And we're like, "Okay, cool." So I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go with the videographer because it was kind of her first time going out and wanted her to feel comfortable." So we go out to this property, and it's a church, and it's just a total wreck. And it's not in a great area. And I mean, there are no lights. It's just really bad inside. And then we're trying to get into the parsonage to take pictures in there. And we try, and the door is locked, and we can't get it to budge. So we go around back, and it's just a foot away from another property. And we're trying to get in the back door.
Back door is a foot away from another property?
Yeah.
Like 12 inches.
Okay, not quite that bad. So there's the porch and the door, and there's another property that's just literally.
It could happen. I mean, we've seen weirder, so that's why I was just clarifying.
Yeah. It's like 6 feet away from the next property, and we're trying to get in the back door, and all of a sudden we hear people screaming from inside the house, and they're yelling at us. And so this little kid comes out and starts yelling at us, and we hear somebody inside the house yelling at the kid to yell at us, asking us, telling us that if we own the property, that they're coming after us. And we're like, the agent's just trying to get in the house. And I'm like, "Oh, no, this is the agent. They're selling the property." And we just keep hearing this yelling. Well, then the guy comes out and starts screaming at us about how we're slumlords, and he's going to come after us because his kids keep climbing on the roof and getting hurt. And I was like, "Well, how's that the owner's fault?" But so screaming at us. Well, then he lets his dog out. So I immediately panic because there's a big 100-pound dog that is now barking and screaming. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to try to keep this dog at bay while the realtor and our videographer run away. And I was just absolutely terrified. Luckily, I couldn't see. There was actually a fence that separated us and everything. And it took me about 10 minutes to calm the homeowner down and get him to put his dog inside. And we decided we didn't need pictures that bad. We'll just do the exterior shot and be good.
So, yeah. Wonder what the title policy would have looked like on that one. It says a former church.
Yes.
Man, that's crazy.
So yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience, and it's definitely one I won't forget. And I promised my videographer I'd never let her go into a situation like that again, because I felt terrible. It was literally her second week on the job. So
do you carry concealed as a person working in the real estate business? Because the scenario you're describing right there is why I do have my permit and why I do practice and why I do carry, because you never know to counter. I don't. My wife, who is also my employee, she does have her CCW, so she does have. Like your wife. What does she carry? A Smith & Wesson. Is it a 380? Is it the Bodyguard? Yep. See, my kind of girl. That's like the best gun for realtors, provided you're going to practice, friends. I mean, if you're not going to practice, please don't own anything that you don't know how to operate safely and not willing to use. But okay, so what was the second story you have besides we have the unhinged neighbor? So do you have dower in your state? What is dower? Okay, then that's a no. You would know if you had dower. So the dower law is, there are only a few states that still actually have dower. So dower means that when you are married, you automatically have an interest in your partner's property. So like a dowry? Is it related to a dowry? That may be where the name originally came from, but yeah. So I bought my house 10 years ago. My wife and I got married 3 years ago. As soon as we got married, my wife owned an interest in my property. So at that point, I couldn't go and sell my house without her actually signing off on it. So she would have to sign the deed. If I went and purchased a property, she would have to sign the mortgage as well. Even if she wasn't on the actual note, so she wasn't actually borrowing any money. We call that community property. Whoop, whoop. So
But a lot of people don't realize that you can't just buy or sell a property without having a spouse signature if you are legally married. Some people are like, we're getting a divorce. Doesn't matter. If it's not finalized, they still have to sign. So I was doing a closing one time, and it was somebody was purchasing a property. And so I'm signing him, and I was told, the wife is going to show up just to sign something really quickly. And I'm like, okay, cool. So she shows up, and they start to get in an argument about what they're signing. So he's purchasing a property without her, but she still has to sign off because they're still legally married. She has to sign off or sign her dower rights away. And if she doesn't, the bank won't lend him the money. So she says, well, I'm not signing this because, they got in an argument. And he's like, okay, well, can I just sign? And I'm like, if she doesn't sign, you don't get the property. So they went back and forth for about 25 minutes arguing with each other. So then out of nowhere, she pulls out a separate piece of paper and says, fine, I'll sign your documents if you sign my document. And he said, well, what is this? And she said, just sign it and I'll sign yours. And he was like, well, I don't know what this is. So she brought her own legal documents that he had never seen to say, okay, quid pro quo, you sign mine, I'll sign yours. And they had a standoff for about 20 minutes before they both finally agreed, fine, I just want to be done with you, and signed each other's documents to get on the road. But it was one of the most uncomfortable and tense situations, having them go at it and say, I'm not signing yours unless you sign mine.
What was on her document? Did you find out what she was trying to make him sign?
I did not read it because I didn't want to.
You need to be nosier. You are not nosy enough.
I didn't want to potentially be liable and be, well, Brent read and approved it, and then I signed it because Brent told me to. It's like, I want to protect myself in PM title and say, I have no idea what's going on. This is outside of my documents. My documents are these closing documents, and I got them signed and notarized. So I did my job.
Please make it stop right now, because it's the worst. Honestly, I would say that's probably the worst thing in real estate or title or mortgage or attorneying. Any of that space is being caught in between two halves of a couple who don't plan to be two halves of a couple any longer. There's no way to sweeten that pot at all.
Yes, it was quite awkward, but we got through it, and he got the property, and as far as I know, everybody's happy and on their merry way.
She got something she wanted. We just never known what it was.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be really curious. I'm going to have to make up a story in my head for what it was she was making him sign. It was probably like the rights to the family dog or something. It was probably something kind of innocuous that she insisted on having.
Well, I can tell you, if my wife divorced me, I can guarantee that's all she would want is our two dogs, our standard poodle and our Great Dane. She would take those over the house any day of the week.
You like big dogs, huh?
We do, absolutely.
So I guess you could have taken one of those dogs with you to that sketchy parsonage and church house, except that a Great Dane is sweet and probably would have given in, and a standard is sweet and would have given in. So never mind. You should have left them at home.
No, actually, standard poodles are actually pretty tough. I mean, they used them in war. If I took the poodle out with me, he would protect me. He'd read off of me. And if I got defensive and aggressive, he would too. So
so you trained him that way. Tell the truth. Her poodles are just, they really are defensive, so they're good. So, but yeah, the Great Dane would run away and pee. She'd be a big old scaredy cat. She's a baby. All right. So if anybody is in Ohio and wants professional title service and they want to reach you guys, how do they reach PM Title?
They can hop on our website, pm-title.com, and we have a chat feature that we just installed, which actually has been fantastic. And we didn't realize how many people were going to our website and looking for answers and not able to get them and just disappearing. And now the chat feature has been fantastic. But all of our contact information, phone numbers, emails, we believe in 100% full access to us. So we are 24/7. We close anytime, anywhere, and we will respond to anybody anytime, anywhere.
Do y'all work in states other than Ohio?
Not yet, but we will be expanding. So that is our goal.
So if somebody's listening to this and they have a title question, they could still DM PM to ask their question, and you could probably connect them to a title pro in their state if you're not there.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of our biggest things is we want to be a connector and be able to help people in any way, shape, or form, whether it be a consumer, a realtor, lender, whoever it may be. So we have a very large network, and our goal is always to help people as much as possible, even if a deal is not with us. So even if we're not processing a deal, we're willing to do anything and everything to help to ensure that people are getting the property that they want, and realtors are closing on transactions. One of my favorite ones we've ever done was we did a closing at 5 a.m. for another another title company because they refused. They said, nope, you have to be in our office between 9 and 5. And the person worked a job and they just couldn't get there. And we said, hey, I'll do the closing for you. So we go above and beyond in any way, shape, or form for the industry.
Whew. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. It was a blast.
And for not answering the first question, and for telling 2 stories, and for defending your standard poodle for being a tough dog. That's so sweet. So appreciate it very much. Hey, friends, if you're listening to this podcast, and first of all, we'll follow up and let you know if you can go back and order enhanced title, because I'm pretty sure that's the question I'm going to get after this episode. So just keep an eye on the show notes, which were, of course, attached to this particular episode, and you can find it anywhere in the archives. You can also reach out to Brent with any of your questions, because as long as he's at PM Title, he'll be there to answer for you. And if you have your own story to tell, you're like, yeah, but that might have been what happened to him with that parsonage, but I got something better. Reach out to me at Leigh Brown on Twitter or any of the social networks to be featured in a future episode of what's really more fun than anything else in real estate. And that's the crazy shit. And so make sure you subscribe, give me 5 stars, and I'll see you next time.
If you are listening to this episode and you need to tell us something about your crazy life in or around real estate, then tweet me at Leigh Brown or reach me on any of the social networks. That's if you're a broker, realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular normal human being who happens to have dealt in real estate. Subscribe for more episodes, and as always, we are thrilled that you joined us for some crazy shit in real estate. See you next time.